Hi, this is Phoenix, and I'm going to read an essay that I wrote last night called Agency. It's a very short essay, not nearly as in depth as I would have liked, but I nonetheless think it is important for what it considers to be important to talk about. I think there is a lot in this essay, and I'm going to be fleshing out more and more kind of some of these thoughts as I continue to write, whether fiction or philosophy. But a lot of it centers on human agency and whether or not this is something that we have. A lot of this will come out in my essay, but I wanted to say that I know that it's very easy in this day and age to be nihilistic about life, our values, the things that matter. I think that it's easy to think that there is no point, that there is no purpose, and often this can come out in various ways in which we give up in some ways. And I think some of this is because we underestimate the power of human agency. I understand that there are flaws with this kind of perspective when we realize that, according to science, there is a hard core determinism that would explain that we actually don't have free will. I would say I don't want to get into the complexities of that right now, per se, but I do want to at least think through it, or I would encourage you to at least think through it, maybe even as I'm reading this essay. But the realization is that, human agency is a difficult thing to talk about. But when I talk about human agency, I'm not just talking about free will, though you can see some of my thoughts on free will, such as in my discussion on libertarian free will, which is a much earlier video I did that you can find on my channel. The point being that human agency is not just about proving that free will exists. In fact, I would say the point of positing something like human agency is to at least be aware of what we are capable of. My perspective on the philosophical issues of free will and like freedom and the things that matter to us, values, all the things that philosophers have talked about for a long time are very important. And I think that we have to be careful when thinking about these things and realizing what we are capable of. So I only talk about these things not to persuade someone necessarily or even convince them of what I think is true, but simply to empower people. And I would describe doing this through the philosophical mode. As I mentioned, it's very easy to get nihilistic. Maybe this is my own tendency. Maybe this is tendencies that other people feel but can't verbalize necessarily. I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but I think that it is more than just a solipsistic claim to think about how difficult it is to actually believe that we have any kind of freedom and that anything even matters in life. You'll be able to pick some of that up as I read this essay. And I hope that you enjoy it. It is from a book of philosophical essays called Philosophical Asides, and I very much enjoy it, enjoy writing it. So again, this essay is called Agency. Yesterday was a hard day for me. Today was shaping up to be a better day because it was a holiday, but then I got in a little scuffle with a friend, and that threw off my mood. It got me thinking about how people can view me in a negative light and how that negative light might sometimes be true. It's hard for me to see myself in a negative light, not just for survival and my livelihood, but for all the things that are worth their salt. Later, I talked with an old friend about politics. It seems as though politics is literally nothing but state-sanctioned murder. He was talking about how the migrant camps are no different from concentration camps, that we invade other countries and have war with them, because we are plundering their resources, such as their oil, which is a part of the quest for energy and the market. I tried to point out my own take on some of these points, many of these points, that were shared over about an hour or two period. There was a negativity there that I was trying to neutralize in my mind, a propensity for extremes. But it was hard for me too, because I was trying to separate fact from fiction. I wanted to know what was actually true. He told me that my arguments are often unintelligible because I express them with jargon and they are technical, complex ideas. I guess this is true, and I have to think about my philosophical process and practice. I've been thinking about philosophy, political theory, morality, Alan Bloom. I think about specifically agency, human agency. In a world run amok by nihilism or false gods, it's easy to think that our choices don't matter. But I know that I can't believe this, or I would give in to every vice that I could possibly have, and that would not be good for anybody. So I think about agency. Maybe a lot of the great writers of the West got a lot wrong, but one thing that I think is important is the fact that they wrote it all down. So I am going to write down my theory of agency within a few short, concise sentences. It's simple, really. I have to think about what free will agency choices actually mean to me. I think there is a lot that is out of our control. As I have shown often in my fiction, humans can be very irrational. They are also capable of great tenderness. Maybe my viewpoint then on human nature is that humans can be good if they are willing to cultivate this and if it is important to them. What I also often highlight in my literature is the way in which people are wholly irrational. We think that we are rational, but this is usually not how we are. And this is because life is so complicated and there are so many variables, and we are hardwired in very strange ways thanks to something like evolution and our evolutionary background. This is complicated, it certainly is not easy to think through, but the fact that we are irrational, according to my postulation, is why we must place emphasis on agency. It's easy to decay and chip away at these foundations of our morality, but we have to believe that we can do something and that we can be accountable, even if we hate this claim and consider it to be useless and outdated. The point then is that even if we don't have human agency, meaning we can't really make choices for ourselves because of some abstract process beyond us, we must all do our best to cultivate that tenderness that I am talking about. Maybe I can't easily explain what this means, but I know that humans feel a lot of pain and that they do suffer, and I'm going to think about what really matters, which is how we treat others. And even though I am not perfect and I make mistakes and I hurt people, tenderness, specifically human tenderness, is important to me, and I think that we should search for that, even if we don't actually have something like free will or human agency. So again, a relatively simple essay, but I think it conveys the point of the importance of thinking about human agency and how we can apply it to our lives. I would say in closing that a lot of these ideas are incomplete and that there is much more that I could say, but I would say I've been shaken up in life because I do think that it is easy to fall into a nihilistic life is meaningless mode, and it makes sense when things are going bad around us in our personal lives or in politics or in the world. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and that we can't really do anything. But that's why I place emphasis on the discussion of human agency, because I think that it's important we think about what we are capable of doing, and I don't mean to put weight on or an emphasis on any terms such as free will, any of these loaded terms such as free will or what we should do or kind of morality, but I nonetheless think that it's important to think about those things and to take them very seriously. As a way of closing, I would indeed say that I can fall into nihilistic mindsets and traps sometimes, but that I think that we do have agency in some ways and we must do our best with that. And I think that that matters, and I think that it's important. This is Phoenix, and I hope you enjoyed this little talk. See you around.